Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for watching. So in today's video we are tackling Cakey foundation. There's nothing worse than spending 20 minutes on your foundation routine and then looking at your face in your mirror being like, oh, it looks like there's like sand under my foundation. What's happened here? I personally have been in that position many times, and for some reason it's always when I'm running late too. It's like the world is against me. So in this video today, I'm going to show you some super simple tricks that are going to stop your foundation ever looking cakey and make sure that it looks absolutely smooth and flawless and beautiful, and also some things that will help it stay looking that way all day long. So if you are interested in stopping your cakey foundation in its tracks, then please keep on watching. So the first step in stopping cakey foundation is skincare. So you actually do have to make sure that you put a little bit of time and effort into your skincare routine. The biggest thing with cakey foundation is dead surface skin cells, and I know that sounds disgusting, but if you've got, those dead skin cells on the surface of your skin and then you apply a foundation over the top, it is gonna look ratchet. So what I like to do, I use my Clarisonic every single morning. This is not necessarily an exfoliator. This brush actually deep cleanses your skin, but it gets all the gunk out of my pores, and when it gets all of the gunk out of my pores, it also removes any extra texture that I've got on my face. So yeah, and I do use this with a cream cleanser. I'm an oily skin type, and if I use anything that dries out my skin just produces more oil than it would normally. So yeah, and then I also use cream scrubs. So this is a Korean skincare brand, nothing really too fancy about it. It's got those tiny little micro exfoliating beads in it, and I use it to just very smoothly exfoliate my skin, and this gets rid of any texture on top of the surface, and it basically makes my skin, perfectly flat and ready to accept foundation and primer on top. Cannot stress enough how important it is to make sure that you are exfoliating and cleansing your skin properly. Now, the other thing that will stop your foundation getting yucky and nasty and cakey is adding an oil to your skincare routine. This applies to all skin types, whether you are normal, dry combination, or oily. An oil will change your life. I prefer to use these at nighttime. This is just a rosehip oil. It's completely organic, and what I do is I use a couple of pumps of this before I go to bed at night, and I smooth it over my skin. Your skin is designed to accept oils, and absorb them very, very well. So when you do this, you will find that not only is your skin no longer dry, you won't produce as much oil, and you also won't get those little nasty dry patches. You notice that when you apply foundation on some areas of your face, the foundation looks perfect, and on others it can look quite cakey. That's because it's sort of, it attaches to the drier patches of skin. It might be even like an old breakout or, some acne scarring and things like that. You will notice that you will get patchy foundation on those areas. Using an oil in your skincare, I promise, will solve all of those issues. Moving on to the actual foundation, and if possible, try to leave like 30 minutes to an hour between applying your skincare and going in with your foundation, because giving it that time will allow it to really absorb into the skin, do its job, and won't give you a greasy layer on top. So obviously the first step in the makeup routine is a primer. Use whatever primer that suits you, but I'm going to suggest that you use a beauty blender to apply it. I've been loving this Rimmel Lasting Finish primer lately. It's a very basic primer. It's kind of like a light moisturizing formula, but it really, really works at keeping my makeup in place all day long. So using this damp beauty blender, I'm going to pick up the primer and apply it directly to the skin. Now, when you apply products like this, you know how normally you would rub them into the skin like this? That actually causes micro exfoliation on the skin, and you'll notice, even if with a moisturizer on the body, if you rub it into the skin and you use too much friction, the friction mixed with the product will cause little balling, and it will actually make your skin more texturized than it was earlier. So by using a damp beauty blender to really press the primer into the skin, you're not going to get any of that micro exfoliation. You're going to get a really smooth base to apply the foundation on top of, which is of course going to help stop with caking. Next up is foundation, and I would suggest to use a liquid foundation because that is what will give you the smoothest finish. What you want to do is take a small amount of that foundation on the back of your hand and try and leave it there for a little bit so that it warms up. You'll notice that as the foundation warms up on the back of your hand, it will get a little bit runnier. But the runnier the better, because the runnier that it is, the easier that it is to apply. Now, if you like to apply your foundation with a brush, that's fine, but use stippling motions and not rubbing motions. So what I mean by that is apply your foundation in this sort of a manner and not like this, because this again will cause micro exfoliation and it'll rub that primer against the skin and you'll get the texture and the balling underneath. It's not going to look as smooth. My all-time favorite way to apply a foundation is with a beauty blender. It gives your skin a really beautiful airbrushed finish. Now, the thing with this is to use only small amounts of foundation. Now, obviously, if you've got, redness, rosacea, acne, scarring, anything like that, we can come back and cover that later with concealer. But the trick with foundation is not to go too heavy with it. If you go too heavy, it will end up cakey, because the more layers that you apply on the skin, the more texture that there's going to be. So just use very small amounts of product and gently push it into the skin. Again, no wiping, no rubbing, just like literally like press it into the skin. Use a fair amount of pressure, and on areas where you've got enlarged pores, try doing a bit of a rolling motion. This will cover all sides of the pores and it will help reduce, them looking enlarged. So, another great tip, if you've got particularly dry skin or dry patchy areas, mix that same oil that you've incorporated into your night routine in with your foundation. You could apply it straight with a beauty blender as well. But over the areas of your face where you apply this is now going to stop any additional caking that might occur as to dry skin, because this is going to pack stacks of moisture into the skin where you apply it. So the next part of the routine is concealer. Now I need to stress, only apply concealer where you need it. And I know that sounds a little bit odd, but essentially I'm referring to areas of redness, patchiness, breakouts, rosacea, things like that. If you've got redness, that's fine. Go in with a concealer, only use a tiny amount and only use it where you need it. So for breakouts, for example, like I've got a little one here. I should have filmed this video last week, guys. You should have seen my skin. Whoa! I'm going to take a tiny little detailing brush and I'm actually going to only apply that concealer right where I need it. I'm not going to apply it around the area of the breakout. I'm only going to pop it where I need it. Doing pinpoint spot concealing will stop you adding extra layers of product to your skin. And like I said earlier, extra layers add extra cakiness and texture to the skin. And, eventually you're going to get that caking no matter how hard you try. So only apply the concealer where you need it. Now, with reference to underneath the eyes, I do apply more concealer underneath my eyes, but I try not to blend it too far down onto the cheek area. Sort of try and only keep it directly under that eye area where you actually need a bit of brightening and coverage. Best to use a concealer that's not, thick, chunky, extremely creamy and emollient. Like, try to avoid cream concealers. I really like the Urban Decay Naked Skin because it's so lightweight. Like, it doesn't add any texture or heaviness to the skin. Now, after speaking to a lot of people about, cakey foundation and other foundation issues, I find that, they get to this stage of the game and they're really happy with how their face is looking, but then they go and powder it, and it's the powdering part where it gets quite cakey. So if that is you and powdering is something that particularly affects you, try setting your face with a setting spray now before powdering it. And I know everybody always is like, Nikia, you do things so out of order. Trust me, it will make a huge difference. You don't have to use much, and try to use the setting spray, at least 30 centimeters away from your face when you're spraying it so that you don't get, like really wet patches anywhere. Now, the thing with this is that you want to allow that setting spray time to actually set before powdering it. Might be 5 minutes. You can sort of tell by looking in a mirror if there's any shine to the face or the foundation, then the setting spray is not quite set. But yeah, do make sure that you do give it time to set down. This will also help to control any of those oils that you're producing during the day, and especially also if you're having trouble making your foundation last, this will help. Now moving on to powder, and again, if it really affects you and you find that your foundation gets super cakey at the powder point, try to only powder the areas where you need the powder. So say, you might only get oily on the tops of your cheeks, or you might only find that the foundation doesn't last through your T-zone. Only powder the areas that you need. If you go in and apply massive amounts of powder all over your whole face where you don't really need it, then you're going to add extra cakiness to the entire look. If you do get oily everywhere, like me, use brushes that are extremely soft and don't wipe the powder over the face. I want you to pat it onto the face very, very softly. You don't kind of go in there and like rub it all over your face like this. You don't do circular motions. You literally just pat that powder onto the skin. That will ensure that you're not moving the foundation and the primer underneath it, and it's also going to again prevent microexfoliation and therefore texture. Now the final part of the routine is obviously blush, bronzer and highlight. You pretty much can use anything for this. I would suggest that if you've got enlarged pores, avoid anything that has got chunky glitter or shimmer, because that's going to highlight your pores and it's going to make your foundation look a lot more cakey. Even when applying your blush, you can still use that same patting motion, on the apples of the cheeks. That's going to stop shifting any of the product underneath and causing any additional cakiness. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my face and then I'll be right back.
So this is what my skin looks like once it's all finished. As you can see, it's not cakey at all, and the foundation and the skin looks really nice and smooth. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I love you all so much, and if you've got any questions, please leave them down below for me. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!